Hello, ladies. How are you? I have been speaking out recently about intuitive eating and the 10 principles. And today we're talking about principle number 2, which is to reject the diet mentality. Or no, yesterday we talked about rejecting the diet mentality. I had a post for you and I did like a little story in the group to talk a little bit more about it. And today we're going to talk about honoring your hunger, which is the second principle. So while many people have heard about intuitive eating, it's becoming increasingly more popular. Most don't realize it's really a step-by-step system for improving our relationships with food and our body, okay, through eating psychology. So if you're kind of new to me in the group, my name is Tiffany DeLuisi. I am the Diet Breakup Mentor, and I help chronic dieters break up with the pain of dieting and get the healthy bodies that they love by transforming their relationship with food and body. My degree is actually from the Institute of Eating Psychology. My initial degree, I'm also a gut health specialist and an herbalist as well. And so I think what a lot of people sometimes think is like, oh, it's really easy. Intuitive eating is easy. It's really not easy. I won't lie to you and tell you it's easy. It's a practice, just like building healthy habits one at a time. It takes time and it takes practice because we are inundated with diet culture all the time, okay? And if you're somebody that's been chronic dieting on and off a diet all the time, used to be like my life, like 10, 15 years of my life, right? Then it's really, really hard to start eating intuitively, okay? And so one of the steps to start doing that is to start to honor your hunger. Okay, so today we're going to dive deep and I'm going to talk about a few things. We're going to examine and assess what hunger is. I'm going to tell you about an experiment called the Ancel Keys Starvation Experiment. We're going to talk about the connection between stress and hunger, and we're going to talk about micronutrients, satisfaction, and how that relates to hunger. And we're going to talk about the role of neuropeptide Y. So if you're like, what the what? Like, yeah, we're going to talk about that. So as you hop on, say hi, let me know that you're here. And if you're watching the replay, go ahead and let me know. And I'll come back and answer any of your questions. So if you have any questions throughout this, just go ahead and let me know. I am on BeLive today. So, and when I'm inside a group, I can't always see who's commenting. So there is a thing like way to turn that on, but I don't remember how. So let's dive in. We're going to talk first about what is hunger. Okay. So hunger on a really basic level basically describes the feelings of weakness or discomfort paired with the desire to eat. Okay. So most of us have experienced this from one time or another. Okay. And this signal is basically triggered by a low cellular power. So I want you to think of it this, okay? So these cells, right? Think of these as mini cars going out through your entire body, and food is the fuel. Okay, tell me, has anybody been really close to empty on their car? Driving on fumes? I am so bad at that. My husband like yells at me. He's like, you would never let it go below a quarter of a tank. All the time, wait till the light comes on. So when you're hungry, the light is on, right? You're running on fumes and you need to fuel up, okay? So there are psychological reasons for hunger, okay? And physiological hunger for reasons for hunger, such as you need energy, okay? It could be a sign that you have some emotional imbalances. So when you have hormonal imbalances. So when you have hormonal imbalances in your body, you're not fueling your body enough, okay? And what's going to happen is that when you start to listen to your body and honor your hunger, you are going to set into your genetic weight set point, okay? So this is the weight that you naturally and effortlessly arrive at when everything in your body is in balance. Okay, and you are not restricting. Okay, so when we are restricting and when we are dieting and when we are not honoring our hunger and we're constantly in hunger starvation mode, it causes metabolic damage. So your metabolism causes damage to that. Okay, and that's basically like it comes with this hunger and fullness cycle that if you're not listening to it, it causes issues. And sometimes other issues can be like environmental reasons for hunger, right? So that would be like you're not physically hungry, but like you're around food. So maybe you're at a birthday party and you're like, well, I did just have lunch, but why am I really like wanting some of this like cake or whatever? So maybe you're at a dinner party or wine and cheese party where food is available. You'll kind of feel like you're craving food. So this is usually considered like environmental causes are usually considered wants instead of like a physiological need for food or a need, but neither is good or bad, positive or negative. They just are. Okay. And so in order to have a healthy relationship with food, if you ask my personal opinion, that means accepting and honoring both unconditionally. Okay. So I understand that a lot of people like don't trust their bodies to tell them when they're hungry or when to stop eating, and they're not comfortable with this idea. Okay. So maybe you can relate to this, because I used to be like, hunger is bad. Hunger is so bad. I can't, if I'm hungry, I need to suppress it. I need to suppress it by drinking some water, drinking some coffee, or even worse, drinking some diet soda, right? Like I've already had my calories for the day. I've already had my points for the day. So I am a bad person, or there's something wrong with me if I'm still hungry. There's nothing wrong with you if you're still hungry. Okay. That is your body's way of telling you that you need fuel. Some days you are going to be hungrier than others, right? Like I shared this, like that I went to the gym last week and she was like, I just don't think you're eating enough calories. And I was like, well, I eat when I'm hungry and I stop when I'm full. And so kind of ironically, yesterday I went and I did a workout for like an hour. I was starving all day long and I was eating all day long. But I listened to my body. I was like, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat. Hungry. I'm going to eat. Some days we're going to be hungrier than others. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Okay. But it has nothing to do with your willpower. All right. So intuitive eating is really more than just this hunger fullness diet. Okay. So that's part of it. You know, it's like listening to when you're hungry and eating, and stopping when you're like 3/4 full. So you're not over the top. Right. But so that's part of it, but that's not all of it. Okay. And so, but it's a really good place to start when you're starting to repair that relationship with food. Okay. That doesn't mean that if like you eat when you're not hungry, there's something wrong with you. It's okay to do that. Right. But you don't want to wait until you're so ravenous, because when you wait when you're so ravenous, you're more likely to overeat or to binge eat or consume foods out of convenience rather than what you desire or what your body needs. And none of that feels good. Okay. So usually what I do when I'm asked if I'm hungry, it's like, well, am I hungry right now? What does that feel like? And if we've been chronic dieters for a long time, we got to experiment with what that feels like, because we don't know. And we just got to get used to it. So it takes some time. Okay. It takes some time. All right. But I want to tell you about this Ancel Keys starvation diet. Okay. So thinness is definitely prioritized in our culture right now, right? That's why everybody's on a diet. Everybody's trying to lose weight. Everybody's trying to do whatever. But it can also be very dangerous. It's causing a lot of other health side effects, and that we need to look for. And here is a really good study. This was a study done during World War II. And these same statistics then would be held true now. Okay, so this tells us a lot. Okay. So Dr. Ancel Keys, he did the starvation experiment during World War II, and it was designed to help famine sufferers. Okay. So he took 32 healthy men that were chosen because of their superior mental and physiological and like physical health. And during the initial 3 months, they eat intuitively. Okay. And on average, they were eating around 3,500 calories a day. Okay. Then they were subjected to 6 months of basically of a starvation period. Okay. Where they were put on a 1,600 calorie diet a day. Okay. Just so you know, the average man watching his weight, that's about what they eat now. Or a woman watching her weight is usually less than that. Okay. My children are 5 and 9, and they need more calories than this every day. I always use 1,200 calories as an example, but 1,600, they actually need more than that too. Okay. We're starving ourselves. So I want to tell you that going down, like more than cutting their calories in half, what happened? Okay. Their metabolism dropped by 40%. These men became obsessive about food, And they experienced more and more food cravings, and they began collecting recipes. Now, keep in mind, this is like the 1940s. This is before the Food Network. This is before Pinterest. And back then, that was a little taboo for men to be, because that's a woman's job, right? They would become obsessive about collecting recipes. Now, tell me if you can relate to this, because during my dieting days, I would watch the Food Network all the time. I would pin food like crazy. Now, of course, they were on my no, you can't eat that list, but I was like, I just pin it and like look at it, then it became an obsession. That's not healthy, right? These men also had dysregulated eating patterns. They would, so when they finally were sitting down to eat and had that food in front of them, they would inhale their food and eat really, really quickly. Some of these men developed bulimia. Some of them began exercising to increase their food rations, like exercising excessively, and so that they could have more food in their rations. And many experienced the onset of like irritability and moodiness and depression. Okay. Hunger became insatiable during like certain periods, like weekends, like they were more likely to binge on a weekend. Does any of this sound familiar? Like, yes, I've been on a diet, all of these things, right? And so it's just kind of crazy, right? I think we can agree that this is like not healthy behavior, not physically healthy, not mentally healthy. Okay. So when we deny our natural hunger, it's normal to become fixated on food. And several years ago, like when my caloric intake was really low for my body, right? Like I just shared with you, like I would devour cookbooks. Like I had an obsession with buying cookbooks, the obsession with watching the Food Network, obsession with pinning things on Pinterest, right? It's crazy, right? That's not healthy, right? So let's talk a little bit about stress and appetite. So there are so many factors that contribute to your appetite, but stress is one of them, okay? Acute or short-term stress can lead to an increase in appetite, while chronic stress gradually inflates appetite because of its impact on our hormones. And stress, you feel immediately before like it's like that stress, like, oh my gosh, like I have a little stress, I gotta go in and take an exam right now. Like that's kind of like acute or short term, whereas chronic stress is like the kind that never stops. Like the tiger is chasing you 24 hours a day, okay? So that's why I love this intuitive eating approach, because because we also address the impact of stress in our lives. A lot of times we define health as like exercise and eat less, move more, eat less. There's so much more to that. And stress is such a huge component. Stress is one of the root causes of all disease. And when we don't have that under control, there's a lot of other issues there. Okay. And it affects our metabolism. It affects our hormones. It affects our appetite, right? So if you want to regulate your appetite and normalize your eating, you got to get your stress under control. And we do that through self-care. Okay. And so what does that look like for you? Okay. So on Saturdays, that's why I'm always like, self-care Saturday, what are you doing? But you should be doing something for self-care every single day. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit more about micronutrients and satisfaction with hunger. Yeah, so he says, I can't ever see your names when I'm on Be Live, which is annoying. But yeah, you didn't know that. Yeah, it's huge. Stress is probably, you should be more concerned about stress than what you put in your mouth, like to be quite honest with you as far as your overall health. So here's the thing. I think that when we go on diets, we're usually not satisfied with what we eat, right? It's usually bland. It's usually boring. We're usually craving something else. But that affects our digestive system, okay? So you start digesting food before you ever put that first bite in your mouth, okay? When you smell the food, when you taste the food, when you're craving that food, and you're like, I really want a cheeseburger, right? You start anticipating and you get those digestive juices flowing, okay? When you're all like, oh, I should be good and not eat the burger. I should have this plain salad with nothing on it. Now, I'm just using this as an example. I use this as an example a lot. That satisfaction does not kick in, okay? And so you're going to have less digestive juices. You're less likely to chew your food thoroughly, and you're less likely to digest that salad, okay, which leads to other issues, okay? The other thing I want to kind of talk about is this idea of micronutrients or macronutrients. All foods are in three different things. They're either fat, carbs, protein, or a combination, okay? But there's a lot of popular diets out there that are like, cut the carbs, right? Cut the fat, just cut, or whatever it is. Your body needs all three macronutrients every single day. And so when you look at your plate, instead of sitting there going, how many calories are this, or counting my carb grams, you should be looking at it as, hey, is there protein on my plate? Is there carbs on my plate? Is there fat on my plate? Okay, just so you know, vegetables are carbohydrates. Oh my gosh, right? They're carbs, okay? It's not a separate group, they're a carb. So are all of those things on there, okay? And I did like a live recently where I talked about you need all different kinds of carbs. You need grains, you need vegetables, you need fruits, you need a variety of those things, okay? But all of these things, they contribute to your digestion, and they contribute to you feeling hunger and fullness and satisfied, which is really, really important. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a little bit about this little thing called neuropeptide Y. So if you've never heard of this, it's a chemical produced by your brain, and it triggers our drive to eat carbohydrates, okay? So when we deprive ourselves of food, this is why the keto diet is super dangerous for most people, okay? I've done a live in here about keto. You can go and check that out. Or we're under eating, right? This neuropeptide Y kicks into action, okay? And it will lead to us eating large amounts of carbohydrates. So somebody told me today, I hope this is okay that I say this, but she posted it in the group, so I hope it's okay. Like I don't really eat breakfast or dinner or lunch, but then I'll really want carbohydrates later in the day. Well, you have just deprived your brain of carbohydrates, which is the main, like fat and carbs are like a main way your brain gets energy. And so if you're not eating enough fat, you're not eating enough carbohydrates, your brain is not going to function the way it should. So you're going to have brain fog, you're going to be tired, you're going to have low energy, okay? And so what happens is when you deprive yourself of that, then all of a sudden you start eating no matter what it is. It gets to the point where you're like, oh, now I need bread. I need a whole loaf of bread, or I need the whole bag of chips, or I need the whole, because your brain has been deprived of carbohydrates and fat all day long. Okay, so there's a reason for this, and it's how your brain keeps you alive, and it's how our brains are wired so that we survive. Okay, our brains don't know that there's a McDonald's up the street or a grocery store up the street, or they don't even know that there's food in our refrigerators, right? It just knows that you're starving it. Okay, so what this means is that you really got to, there's a lot more to like your hunger, and there's a lot more to listening to your body, okay? So how do you start honoring your hunger? So if you're still like, I'm unsure how hunger, how I'm going to honor my hunger, okay? This is something I cover in depth in my 6-week program to transform your relationship with food and body. So what we do during that program is I really teach you how to learn to listen, to honor your hunger, and make peace with food. You learn what hunger cues feel like for you, and discover those subtle signals that maybe you've been missing. I help you kind of bust some of these myths around hunger that the diet culture tells us. And you find out why intuitive eating is about so much more than just eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full, which I kind of just talked about a little bit today. You start to open up to these off-limit foods, which may seem super scary to people, but it's a really important part of this process, and how this is going to help you feel safe and empowered around food, and understanding why you're compelled to eat those forbidden bad foods and how you can change that. And you're going to learn how to give yourself unconditional permission to eat. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about that program, you can go to my website, tiffanydeluisi.com/breaking-free with that little dash. If you just go to tiffanydeluisi.com and say work with me, I think it's under like transform your relationship with food or something. And you get $100 off this week only when you use the promo Break Free 2019. Actually, I don't think that's it. I think it's Diet Breakup 2019. I'll go test that. If it's not Break Free 2019, I'll put it in the link below. Or if you have questions and you want to talk more to me, schedule a complimentary call. Call it a coffee chat. We just get to know each other. We can talk more about this and see if this program works for you or if something else works for you. And I hope you will join me for the rest of the 10 days where we talk more about the rest of the 10 principles of intuitive eating. So if you have any questions for me, drop them down below, and I will talk to you on Thursday. Bye-bye.